Hey everybody, I'd like to welcome you today to this regular meeting of the Kaufman County Commissioner Court. Today is Monday, May the 11th, and we welcome you here this morning. If you're here to address the court, we do have some sign-in sheets over by the deputy, and you're welcome to sign in, and then we will have some time here at the beginning of the meeting, actually about 3 minutes for you to address the court if you'd like to do so. I've asked Commissioner Shane to give our invocation, and then we'll have a pledge of allegiance, both of our flags. So if you'll join me in standing.
Our most gracious Heavenly Father, we just come to you today and always thank you for your many blessings. We just ask you to, and we thank you for the rain that you sent, but we ask you to be with the people that have had issues through this last couple of days. We just ask you to bless them and be with them as they go through their endeavors. We also ask you today to be with our fellow commissioner's wife as she goes through surgery this afternoon. We just ask you to put your hand over her and heal her. So be with her and keep her. We also ask you to be with our soldiers who are in harm's way and bring them home in their time. Also be with our first responders as they protect the citizens. In your son's name. Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Alright, do we have anybody that's signed in this morning? Sir. Alrighty, we have, I believe, 6 people here today that address the court. Would remind the audience and participants as you come forward to speak that we do have a 3-minute time limit, and if you want to combine that with anybody else that's here to speak with the same, that has basically the same comments, certainly you're welcome to do that, or if you'd like to speak, we'd be pleased to hear that as well. We do respect, or we do ask that you be respectful in your remarks. This is a meeting of the court, and it is being recorded, and so we do expect that everybody will treat each other with respect. So first, I'll ask Stephen Davis to come forward. He's here to talk about the public nuisance. If you'd like to come here to the microphone here, sir. Thank you for being here.
Yes, sir. I want to address this question in terms of public nuisance abatement. We live way over by that close to Stillwell Lake. And personally, I specifically choose not to live in the city limits because I consider myself a thrifty person, so I don't throw a lot of stuff away. And over 40, 50 years of time in my life, I have accumulated quite a bit of what's termed stuff. Now, I've just played in the antique car and classic car hobby. So over this period of time, I have accumulated a considerable amount of cars and parts, which I use parts also, which I also take to swap meets, sell stuff on Craigslist and a couple of other websites that are out there for us car owners. Well, I certainly don't consider that a public nuisance. It's my hobby, and also I'm 65, I'm nearing retirement, and I'm looking forward to being able to, in retirement, to supplement my income by selling stuff on the internet. So, now this is car parts, so it doesn't hurt to sit out in the open. I live out on an isolated road. I've also got antique farm equipment. Some of it's been in my family for 50 or 60 years. And to me, it's of sentimental value as well as just being antique. I enjoy the antique stuff. I've got complete blacksmith shop that took down in sections, because it was going to be bulldozed. I enjoy rescuing, you could say, stuff that's old, and what other people might view as trash or junk. It has value to me. And I would like to strongly speak against this proposed regulation. If the people in the subdivisions, their homeowners associations in the cities choose to have spotless surroundings, that's their business. But I live out in the country by choice, so I can have the things I enjoy and my hobby the way I'm used to and the way I want to have it. Like I say, to me it's an investment as well as a hobby. There's a real danger, in my opinion, these days, of government at every level overreaching any reasonable authority, as well as one could say the Constitution authority. The Constitution gives you the right to pursue happiness, and when you get into the business of stating what,
Bigger time is,
I appreciate your vote against this.
thank you, sir, for being here. Next is Charles M. Fennell, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Mr. Fennell.
I live on the same street as Steve, and I've told all 10 people who live on the street, and they all strongly object to this deal y'all are wanting to pass. I too have a few cars in my yard, and there's parts on them that I can't buy at the parts store, and that's how I keep my vehicles running. There's things I can't make that I need off the cars in the yard, and to the normal person's eye, they just look like junk. But there's valuable parts on there that I can't buy. And consequently, some of the old cars that I work on, I won't be able to fix. Anyway, that's about all I got to say, except that I strongly object to it too.
Thanks for being here. Next is Lavelle Tunnel. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for being here too.
I too live on the same street, and the things that they have don't bother me. None of us complain about anything that we have. And it says it's detrimental to the overall health, welfare, and safety of the citizens. We live by the lake, so there's going to be mosquitoes. So and we don't have batteries sitting out. We don't have things that gas in our old cars and stuff like that. So I'm just against it, because as seniors, and this is our hobby, rather than sit on the couch, we work and stay active, and that's part of why we live out there, so that we can have the things to stay active and not just be a couch potato.
Thank you very much. Next is Danny Greenhall.
No comment.
Okay. Next is Fred Landis.
I've got some old trucks, and they're sitting out, but I've also got some buildings, and I could put those trucks in those buildings. But I see people coming down our road all the time, and they get out and pose with those trucks, take pictures, so apparently they're not offended by them. Who is offended by them? And I'm strongly against this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. And Hazel Landis.
I stand the same. He's my husband. He said it for me.
And what I failed to write down the road, what county road is this?
Lake Ray Hubbard Drive.
Lake Ray Hubbard Drive, okay. All right, thank you again for being here today. And the first item on the agenda is the routine correspondence. I had two items that I laid out for the commissioners this morning. First is a meeting that the city of Kaufman will be having this Thursday night concerning the downtown improvement program that will be going on here in Kaufman later this year. And they're having a meeting this Thursday night at 6:30 p.m. at the Kaufman Council Chambers. I know Commissioner Rosales plans on attending, I believe. And just wanted you to have that. They also attached a map showing kind of what they're looking at doing, so you have a copy of that. And I wanted to make you aware also that I had contacted Senator Cornyn's office. I recently, with some family members, including myself, have had an experience with Social Security Administration. And right now, we do not have even a part-time, one day a week or one day a month, Social Security office in Kaufman County. So I contacted Senator Cornyn's office. Actually, they had contacted me about it. We had any issues they could help us with, and I said, well, as a matter of fact, it would be good if we could have at least a part-time Social Security office in Kaufman County, and even suggested they could use our upstairs conference room to, one day a week or 2 days a week, or we'd find a place for them to meet. And unfortunately, we did get a letter back from the regional office saying that due to budget constraints at the Social Security Administration, they do not have the ability to do that right now, to staff that, even with us providing the facility. And part of it is because of our population, which I find strange, because they do have a full-time Social Security office in Hunt County, and we have approximately 25 or 30,000 more people in Kaufman County than Hunt County. So, in the efforts that anybody would like to put forward, we can certainly send this same information to Senator Cruz, or Representative Hensley, and see if they can make it move forward a little bit. It seems to me like it's a reasonable request, but so far we didn't get a very good response. So I just want you to be aware of that. There are a lot of people that in our county, obviously, that use this as a service. And we went to the office in Ball Springs, and I can tell you it's quite an experience to go there for a variety of reasons. But anyway, just want you to be aware of that. Next item is the consent agenda. We have item A is to discuss and consider approving Farmers Electric Co-op to construct an electrical power distribution facility on County Road 346, which is approximately 1,440 feet south of FM 429 in Kaufman County Precinct number 3. Item B is to discuss and consider approving a resolution for Indigent Defense Discretionary Grant Program. Item C is to discuss and consider approving a resolution for the murder trial grant through the Office of the Governor Criminal Justice Division. Item D, and I think, Commissioner, you asked that be removed. Yes. Okay, so we'll not act on item D. And then item E is to discuss and consider approving project agreement for road repairs with the City of Post Oak Bend, Kaufman County Precinct 1. Does anybody have any questions about any of those items?
Make a motion to approve.
We have a motion from Commissioner Rosales to approve. Do I have a second? Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed. Thank you very much. Item number 3 is from our Fire Marshal and Public Works Office, Randy Richards, to discuss and consider adoption of an order amending Kaufman County public nuisance abatement procedures. Randy, you come forward.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Commissioners, I brought this, basically it's a revision to you today. Kaufman County currently has a nuisance abatement policy and procedure, which was adopted in 2004. And since that time, there have been 4 legislative updates, 05, 07, 09, and 13. that clarified and amended Chapter 343 of the Health and Safety Code, which is basically what the nuisance abatement process is designed under. The process of the junk, trash, debris, so forth, that has not changed, nor are there any changes to that in the new one here. Primarily what these updates have done have provided clarification on the use of county funds, provided clarification on the procedures, the lien process in the higher courts rather than the misdemeanor courts. Three specific things that it did bring forward, other than the old, would be the use of septic systems. There's a tool in there that provides enforcement for septic systems for those counties that do not have, or that have not adopted a septic program such as we did through TCEQ. The other two items that were new would be the blockage of drainage ditches, which I believe Mr. Gonzalez recently had one of those, and that would assist us in, in coming across some type of an abatement or enforcement process there on the blockage of the drainage ditches. And the swimming pool process, abandoned swimming pools, that changed a little bit. There were still some issues with children falling in these abandoned swimming pools. So it provides for a more stringent, a locked and secure gate and a cover over the swimming pool instead of any of the above or. And in a nutshell, that's the process. You compare the old and the new. Most of the language is very much the same as it was, with the exception of what I just highlighted here.
Okay, so what we're doing is actually updating the existing policy.
Yes, sir.
That we've had in place since 2004 with the new language from the statutes that are applied. We heard our folks here from Lakeway Hubbard Drive. Would you respond to their concerns?
Certainly, and I understand, their concerns and everything. The procedures that Kaufman County has done in the past should not change as far as it all happens with a complaint process. That's where it originates. Someone has to provide a valid complaint, and the two officers that work this program, they are so far behind now, it's unreal. All the complaints that they do. I don't know if we've ever had a mosquito complaint. That's understandable when we have the floodwater situation such as we do, other than possibly an abandoned swimming pool. I could definitely understand a complaint on that. The vehicles, many vehicles out there, I believe this is more towards a more urban area where there's vehicles that are parked and they're just literally, strung apart and not being repaired. Obviously, not an antique type vehicle for restoration or anything like that. So every complaint that comes in has to be weighed through our office to determine if it even holds merit. Just because a complaint comes through does not necessarily mean that it will satisfy the criteria within the abatement process and the rules that the state has set down. So I hope that answers some of your concerns there. We're definitely not going to be able to go out just looking for stuff and flying over or anything like that. It has to be a valid complaint from a citizen of something that they've seen, and then we have to go in and evaluate to make sure that it does meet that process.
Mr. Richards, when we first started discussing this, if I recall correctly, it had to do with most of the concerns I've had expressed to me are abandoned homes where people have walked off and left their property.
Yes.
And sometimes those homes turn into drug houses.
That's true.
And it's amazing that I don't know how many we have across the county, but I can name half a dozen probably right now that I know of just right in my area. And that was my belief that it was one of the reasons that you were recommending that we update this policy. And what we would do do, explain the process, what we would do with abandoned houses, since that's really the thing that we were mostly addressing, I believe, with this.
I provided all the commissioners a copy of the entire process, but y'all each have the flow chart. Okay.
And this will be for so the citizens will understand kind of
Yes.
what this stands for.
Basically, we have to proceed with a complaint. There's a site inspection done by the investigator. If abatement is not required, or it doesn't meet the criteria, the case is closed. If it does, then they will issue a notice, and it's a 30-day process that we have to allow for a correction or an abatement. If it's abated, the law is closed. If not, then 95% has been about the average of all nuisance complaints fall in the JP court with no further action. Everything is accomplished through that. There's been a few that go further than that, and those are the ones that would move up to the court to request an abatement and go through that process and also establishing a lien if necessary. Typically, that's never been done in this county. The only way that would occur is if there's just absolutely been no compliance whatsoever. And even the establishment of a lien may not be required once the county chooses to abate the process themselves through county property and manpower, which is allowed by law now. Or if they choose to go third party, the contract, we could assess the cost of that onto the property owners themselves and let them pay for the abatement. Relating to houses in particular, it would be after, you cannot abate anything without proper notification to the owner. They must know what's going on. And they have the ability to request a hearing. If they don't agree with that, and then have the ability to address the other points.
And who would that hearing be, through the JP court?
The first step would be through the JP, yes, sir. That's the initial 30 days. And that's where they would have the ability to express their concerns, what it is. The court would also hear our side as to what the complaint was, what recommendations we could make that would satisfy the abatement and still be able to maintain the property. And with the houses, that's going to be, we have many nuisance complaints in this county that have dealt with, as you were saying, abandoned homes, abandoned properties and buildings, that there is no homeowner that lives on the site. There are no family members that even live in the county. Most of these properties are owned by banks. We've had one recently, it was a bank up in New York that owns some properties, and just going through the process of trying to notify the proper person there. In the past, it's been very difficult to get shuffled around, and there's a different officer that handles that department now and so forth. So therefore, we've had no results as to the bank-owned properties and so forth. Most of the time, it's going to be a situation where some debris or trash was out beside a house, something like that. Notification made to the homeowner, although may be unhappy about it, but they just say, yeah, it is a mess. They get it cleaned up, and the process stops right there. But with the homes that we cannot find someone to go ahead and abate them, that's one of my main concerns.
Do you have any idea how many of those we have scattered across the county?
I've had 4 of them already addressed to me from either, from the court commissioners. I'm aware of one business that is in severe need of making contact, and I'm sure this, once this process starts, there'll be several more people that understand that, we can utilize that process to get rid of maybe some of these old drug houses, or even buildings that are just so dilapidated. The next storm, they're going to fall down and collapse, become a harbor for rats and snakes and so forth.
District Attorney, from the District Attorney's Office, do you guys have any comments you'd like to add on top of what fire marshal had said.
Other than the fire marshal had requested that we review the new ordinance and we met over it, I tracked the language from the 2004 regulations that you guys passed. It replicates the exact statute under 343 of the Health and Safety Code. And then I have the changes here too in my folder of the new order, which replicates the exact new statute, and then I think 3 or 4 changes that happened in between 2004 and now. The only thing that it does really that's new is it adds a procedural background for how we're going to do the process in Kaufman County. Something to consider if the homes are your main concern, potentially using contractors, I think would, Randy and I had talked about that, would be probably the best way to abate those type of nuisances, just because of the liability that you're going to face when you're actually knocking a building down. And I don't know if our maintenance crews would have the ability to do that type of work or not.
Just depending upon
But
each case.
that was one issue that we had talked about that maybe you guys wanted to answer.
I did address several other counties in relation to if they chose to abate it themselves or if they use third party. More so than not, the counties tend to put out a competitive bid process, pretty much an RFP, which would go through the purchasing agent. And once that bid is accepted, and then of course the county would be responsible for those payments to those third-party vendors. But we can in turn either assess those costs to the owner, allow them the opportunity to pay for them, or if need be, assess a lien to the county records. And then once the property is sold, then the county will recover some of the costs.
Okay, to be clear, this is an update. We've had the policy since 2004.
Yes, sir.
And what we're doing, or what we're being asked to approve today, is an update to that policy that brings us in compliance with all of the changes that occurred by statute since 2004.
The original statute goes back into the 80s, mid to late 80s. Is when that chapter was created. And our county adopted that policy in 2004, and since that time, there have been a few updates to it. Primarily, it's through the procedural process.
Okay, so I would go back to the DA's office. Is that basically what we're doing here today, then?
Yeah.
Bringing this in compliance?
That is, and let me offer this up too, that one of the most recent seminars in Texas District County Attorneys Association, when this was discussed, it was discussed by the Harris County Attorney's Office. And Harris County, they split the DA's office. County attorneys, they have a couple of people devoted to the enforcement. Their enforcement is using this as a tool for drug houses, which obviously is a huge problem in Harris County. He's right when he says, that's what they can use. If you have the resources, it's a great tool to use with that respect, because it kind of addresses that problem where you don't have individuals that you're able to arrest, and you don't have an owner that you can account for. You need to establish some record in order to move to the next step to figure the problem. At a certain point, the property is the problem. There's people at the property, but the property itself is the problem. It's right.
And to be clear, because I know these folks wouldn't have come up here this morning if they didn't have concerns about what we were doing today. But to be clear, your office, your department is not planning on going out and pinpointing people that are working on vehicles for extra income or for antique vehicles or something of that nature, unless you have a volley of complaints from their neighbors or whatever.
No, sir, we do not have nowhere near the resources to actually go out and initiate. I would love to approach the board and request 4 more people to help with this, because I'm sure we can.
Good luck on that.
Yeah, I have a risk. But it may be something that we do have to look at. Because those eyes are open as we start realizing that it's basically cleaning that Kaufman County from all our drug houses and so forth.
Commissioners, y'all have any questions?
into the country, have the freedom to do what I want to do, and be able to make some extra income is a great thing. And because I like old tractors, old cars, and some of these American comes by and he doesn't, and he thinks it's nice, so I think we're overstepping our bounds.
That process, first there has to be a complaint. That can either be from the citizen, or it can be from an officer, depending on what's on view. And that officer's opinion has to be investigated to determine if the complaint is valid or not, if it meets the criteria set forth in the statute. And if so, it's presented to the homeowner, which in turn they have a 30-day process to either get clean or they can see the court. And there would be a court process that would make that determination.
But from that standpoint, government overreach, sometimes
Yes, sir.
we sneak into it a little at a time and we don't get
Yes, sir.
Well, I agree, Commissioner Allen. I commend the fire chief and marshal for coming up with this. And I think we can make it work in the field. I think we just need to make some adjustments on it. I think it's a necessary item, but we need to, I think, confine the scope of it to most of the subdivisions. And it does that in almost every article of the code here. But I think we should have a workshop on it, and I think we should iron out the details with everybody's concerns. I'm really concerned about the wordage, especially on page 4, because almost every, on 3.2 on the public nuisance, almost every one of those, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, Z, is concerning premises in the neighborhood, except for item C. And I don't know if that was intentionally left out, but it says maintaining premises in a manner that creates an unsanitary condition likely to attract mosquitoes, harbor odors, or disease-carrying pests. And should that say maintain premises in the neighborhood, I can see that with the exclusion of that, those 3 words, in the neighborhood, that includes every property in the county. So that opens the scope up to, inhibit everybody's personal liberty to do with the property what they
outside the city.
Outside the incorporated city limits. And like I said, I don't know if that was intentional. Now, it is in the old order as well, which I think should be changed. We do have a lot of issues with these abandoned houses and unoccupied, properties. But again, like Commissioner Allen said, if you move to a subdivision, they have regulations, they have, their own set of rules. When you buy the property, you know what they are. They have all the ordinances, homeowner associations for some of them, and some not. But and then it has footage in there too, about 300 feet, outside of the neighborhood, which I'm okay with that, because that would affect the whole entire neighborhood as well. So I think we ought to have a workshop on it. I think it's a great tool that we can use. I think we need to tweak it a little bit.
Today, I'd like to see us have a workshop, and I'd like for Commissioner Phillips to be in that, so I don't think that's a huge problem.
I think it's a good program. We just need to tweak it.
In relation to your concerns, you're addressing some definitions, and the definition of public nuisance is those, as they are written in the current and as they are written in the old order of 2004. That is the language that is straight out of the word for word, straight out of chapter 343. I do not believe that we can reduce a state law. I know that we can enhance or make more stringent.
I think we got it backwards. I think we can't make the law more stringent than state law, but we don't have to pass an ordinance enforcing a government code written by the state. Is that not correct, Council?
Well, that's news to me if it's state law. I don't know that the county has the right to opt out of it. I'll certainly look at that issue in particular, but I think Mr. Richards has correctly stated that these are going to be the regulations. I typically see that as the baseline, the minimum standards of which you can set more stringent standards if you determine that's necessary. But saying Well, you said it, but I'll disregard it. I never looked at that's an option.
Does the state mandate this nuisance abatement on each and every county in the state?
I think so, yeah.
Depends on.
I'd be,
If that were true, we wouldn't be here today talking about passing.
we've already passed, we've already got.
I know, but that doesn't mean that can't be the first.
I'll look into that, I'll look into seeing if we can reverse it.
Like I said, I think we need to have a workshop on it, give us time to do some research.
And let me be real specific, I'm going to look at the saying that the county can reverse state law.
I'm not talking about reversing state law, I'm talking about adopting it as a
Reversing the requirements of state law. Okay, I'll look, I'll be more open-minded than I am this morning. Because
Well, if you look into that,
Sure.
I think
Sure.
that's something else we can discuss.
Yeah, I don't think we can scoot around state law.
I don't either, but if we pass this as an order, then it's an order from the county. We don't have to pass everything the state says that we can pass. Like, that gives us the authority to pass an order. It doesn't mandate. But that's something we'll discuss that at the workshop.
Okay. Interesting discussion. So that's the way democracy works, and we appreciate you folks being here this morning and sharing with us, and I promise you we'll come back to this. Obviously, we already have an order in place, and our effort today, led by the fire marshal's office and the DA's office, was to clean that up. But since there are some questions about constitutionality and all those kinds of issues, that we can certainly postpone this. If you'd like to make a motion to table this until we have a workshop, I'll accept that. I have a motion from Commissioner Allen. Do I have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Rosales seconds the motion. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, thank you, Randy.
Thank you.
Appreciate your work looking at this. Next item, what I'd like to do, I think this is going to require an executive session. Is that correct, John, on item number 4?
Yes, we are set for executive session on these topics tomorrow.
So we can just pass over it. Okay. So we will just pass over number 4. That'll be one of the first items on our agenda tomorrow, before we enter into a workshop. And then item number 15 is to discuss and consider clarifications on conflict and plat and covenant conditions and restrictions, Exhibit B, pertaining to building setback line on lot 1612 Run Crossing subdivision, Kaufman County, precinct number 1.
Yeah, this is my agenda item. Mr. Ward here has come to me. He has bought a lot in the Quail Run Crossing subdivision. And, it's a corner lot. And in the covenants of the contract, it has an exclusion of the setback lines. The particular lot that he has, because it is like an arrowhead shaped lot on the corner. That would reduce his building site to almost equal nothing. Mr. Ward, would you like to come forward and give us a little history on it?
Good morning, Commissioner.
Good morning.
I'm Jason Word. I currently live at 13207 South FM 148 in Scurry. But back in 2010, I bought some property out in the county, approximately 3 acres, in the Quail Run Crossing, lot number 16. The physical address of that property is 4550 North FM 148 in Crown. I bought this as an unrestricted piece of property, which was supposed to be different from the rest of anything else in Quail Run Crossing. You can see that in the Exhibit B, you should have in front of you. It restricts or excludes any of the restrictions that was placed forth when it was platted to any other lots. Mine is excluded, which is lot number 16. Did not know about these building lines until I surveyed the property back in August of 2014. And the survey presented with the building lines that were, to my understanding, placed there when the subdivision was platted. And this property, because of the Exhibit B, was intended for different use than residential use. So if you notice the survey that you may have a copy of, I have building lines on two sides of my property, which is a triangle property. So therefore it takes the majority of my property away. I have 0.14 acres in the road, and then also a 10-foot utility easement on two sides of my property. So therefore, with the building lines, it really takes a lot of my property away. I surveyed the property. If you notice on the survey, there's a fence line on the neighboring property. I did the survey for that purpose, so I could talk to the neighbor about the exact location of that fence line. So that's how I come about finding the building lines that were in place. They weren't in the restricted part, and the way I understand it by Ranger Title, I talked to the lawyer at Ranger Title, which is who I closed with. We did a lot of research and trying to find the information that we needed. And his understanding was that that Sharon McComas, when she platted this, should have actually extended this exemption on the plat where it has the building lines, the 60-foot building lines for the rest of it. I've researched anything that could possibly be a hindrance for the need of the 60-foot building line, and it doesn't, any line of view or anything as far as the road stencil that comes up. The actual entrance onto 148 is way in front of my property. You can see it up in the far north corner. So there's no line of sight problems with that would cause it. And the other item that I have is a letter that you should have a copy of from Sharon McComas, which is who actually platted the property and who I actually purchased the property from. She could not be here today, but she did extend a letter of her let me find my copy of the letter, so I have one. Her reasons and what she intended to do with the property, and actually her oversight of her not taking out the building lines or exempting them for my lot 16. I am out in the county, and that was subdivided back in, I believe, 98 is when it was actually put in existence. So my Exhibit B is actually dated from that time, June 24th, 1998. Is when she exempted my property. And I went to Commissioner Rosales, and with his help, I came here today trying to get these building lines removed.
John, if you review these.
I have them, Rebecca's reviewed it. Do you have a copy of the warranty deed that Vendors Lane was provided to you at your closing?
Let's see what I have. Is this what you're needing?
Yeah. The problem that you have, I think, or one of the problems that you have is that A on that reflects the opposite of what your intent was, and presumably what the grantor's intent was. And even if the Commissioner's Court does something today, whatever action they want to take, what you need to do, and I'm not your lawyer, I'm going to go ahead and answer this to kind of facilitate the process. What you should get, which would have avoided this, you should get something from her to you, a corrected warranty deed with Vendors Lane that omits the reference to that. Because you're right, you were excluded on one document. However, unfortunately, for you on that deed, it was reversed and you were put back in. And you need to clear that up for your chain of title and your seller. So that's my free advice to you,
This is something I can do through Sharon McCombs?
Absolutely, absolutely. The letter that you have from her, although it appears to be notarized, it's not going to be sufficient if it was presented to the county clerk. It couldn't be recorded. It didn't specifically describe the real property. It's not in the format. But a corrected warranty deed that changes that is going to fix much of your problem. Frankly, you're going to have to get it before you would transfer the property.
I believe the reason why I was sent here is because of it being a subdivision. There was a concern that since she no longer owns any of that subdivision anymore, then it does not lay back in her hands anymore.
Well, she still is the grantor of the deed to you, and so she still needs to fix that piece of it.
Is that some type of?
She's not redeeding the property, she's merely correcting the deed.
Okay.
That's not fair. So the document would be entitled either an amended warranty deed or a corrected warranty deed.
Is there some type of paperwork that I would need to present to her?
You are.
She's not a real easy person to deal with.
I appreciate that. I would imagine the lawyer.
She's very busy.
Anyway, that's one suggestion I have. Rebecca had looked at this too. Rebecca, what thoughts did you have?
Well, it was just difficult because the deed was the most recent document and it had that express language in it, so that's probably going to be the most controlling. But if you can get the amended or corrected warranty, I would clear it up.
Really, all you're asking her to do is put in more formal language what she's already put in that letter to you.
Okay.
So,
John, would that be for future sale of property, or would that be
oh
necessary?
yeah, he's gonna need it.
Yeah,
If
I mean,
he
that's
trans-
not necessary for a court.
Even if y'all do something today, it's going to be pretty strange if he sells the property and that's still showing up this time. So that needs to be cleared up.
Would anything done here today help me towards that, or is that just something that she can do on her own?
She can do that.
Thank you.
And like I say, all you're asking her to do is just a more formal version of the letter that she's provided.
I'm sure the lawyers all the way around the courthouse, where they had it.
Sure, I don't want to take business from anyone.
So, Commissioner, what do you wish to do with this?
Well, I'd like for us to move forward. I'd like to make a motion that we accept the item B as the governing document for the subdivision. And let it be noted that back when this subdivision was platted, it wasn't required for any exceptions to be written on the plat like it is now. That's why they gave the exhibit in addition to that. So I don't see a problem with it. Like he said, the setback line doesn't restrict line of sight from the intersection, because that intersection is several hundred feet away from the corner of that building line. So I'm not sure how to put that in the motion to, John, what would be your recommendation to the verbiage to clarify this? That we accept the exhibit B as the governing document for lot 16?
Which one is it? I'm sorry. Yeah, I think that you can do that. That will hopefully help him as he addresses anything unless the county's already taken action to correct it.
Make a motion, we accept the exhibit B as the governing document for lot 16 on the exclusion of the setback building lines of Quail Run Crossing subdivision.
We have a motion from Commissioner Rosales. Do we have a second? Commissioner Shane, seconds. Do we have any other discussion? We're about to clear about what we're voting on here.
Not going to affect anything with this state.
No, the property line doesn't change. That's, as you can see in that survey, the FM 148 actually curves away from the property, and the intersection of Stitzel Road actually goes out in an arc to join 148. So that I don't know how many feet that is. It does say, but it looks like 100 feet. So right of way that the state has actually from his corner of his property to the Texas right of way.
All right, we have a motion on the floor, that we have a second. All in favor say aye. Those opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much.
I think.
Good luck as you move forward.
Thank you.
Hey, item number 6 is to discuss and consider signing an interlocal participation agreement with Texas Association of Counties for participation in the Affordable Care Act reporting and tracking services program. Ms. Floyd is here with us. You have copies of that, I believe.
John passed the participation agreement with TAC for the ARCH program a couple weeks ago, and they're just requesting this in addition to that, they're requesting this for the same thing.
I believe you were emailed a copy of this. I've got some extra cards.
I got one question for Floyd, and I don't know if you may or may not know this answer, but in the paragraph on the first page, it says Texas Association of Counties Health and Employee Benefits Pool, HEBP. That looks like that is all one entity. But on the next page, item 2.3, under administrative contract with the Texas Association of Counties, it says HEBP is contracted with the Texas Association of Counties. That makes it look like it's two separate entities.
I don't know the answer to that one. I know that TAC runs our HEPD, so that's who we do all our insurance with and all that for health, so I don't know the answer to that one.
And on the next item 3.1, termination, it says this agreement shall be for 1 year, and it's contained in execution by the second party. To sign the agreement, this agreement shall be automatically renewed annually for an additional 1 year term without necessity of any action. Is that our intent to renew it for next year, or?
I mean, that's our decision to decide if we want to.
Yeah, this was just going to be for this 1 year.
Right, for all of 2015, yeah. So it would be up to us if we want to continue with the program.
And that begins at the beginning of the calendar year?
That's my understanding, is, because that's when we're going back and tracking as of January.
Right. It says if we decide to terminate, we have to give them 30 days written notice before the end of the additional term. So I want to make sure that we make a note that if we decide not to renew with them, that we give them notice by the end of November. And then the next item, 3.2, on the agreement by member, second sentence, HEBP bylaws are incorporated by reference and made a part of this agreement for all purposes as it fully set out, except that Articles 3, 4, and I guess it's 15 shall apply to members that obtain only administrative services. I can't find these articles anymore. Do you have any idea what those articles are?
I do not. Back and certainly look them up for you.
We'll make sure we sign something we know what we're getting into. Should those articles be in this contract that the verbiage related to them?
I don't know where the articles are.
I don't either. They're not in any of this contract that I can find.
I'm sure the able to.
Take that away from me.
Do something you won't have workshop on that.
Well, I just want to make sure we're clear what we're getting into. I hate to sign a contract with ordinance that are not in the contract, that's not any kind of deal.
I mentioned, or you can obtain
Check the tab, yes.
the tab, like it's usually very important.
But we were talking about only obtaining administrative services for what we talked about court last time on the tracking of the employees, so we can comply with the unaffordable care act.
Yes, sir.
So those articles, John, is that, am I correct in reading that those articles were obtained to our contract because we're only contracting for administrative services?
Right. Although they're excluding those three sections that you cited, so to make sense of that sentence, we have to know what you're saying. So,
That might be in the original agreement for services with TAG, since they provide us with so many different programs, not just health insurance.
If we decide to not act on this today, it puts us in line.
I don't think so, because we've already signed our participation, so we're already signed up to do it, so, I don't think so.
Maybe we might need to get some other tax to come down, or at least in,
If we can clarify that, council.
What's your pleasure on this item then? Table, this item, which is,
Was that your only concern?
Well, let's see.
Or if you want to get with me after?
Yeah, I'll get with you afterwards. I think I had another.
and did I have a motion to table? Commissioner Allen makes a motion, Commissioner Shane seconds the motion. Any other, to table, any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All right, the next item is item number 7, to discuss and consider approving changes to the employee status policy to clarify classification of employees with the Affordable Care Act.
So our current employee status, we created back when we first talked, so this Affordable Health Act came about. And we had changed our employee status to, and created a modified part-time. Those are the people, the employees that would be covered under the Affordable Health Act, offered health insurance. So, since all this has come about, I have gotten suggestions from TAC, and they suggested, how they're kind of, the Affordable Health Act, how it's kind of classifying employees is they're all full-time. If you have insurance, you're considered full-time. So the only difference that would really change would, there wouldn't change any employees' benefits or anything like that, just simply changing the title from a modified part-time to a full-time part-time, or modified full-time, sorry, and then creating a regular variable hour. So what the modified full-time would be, those employees that we hire with the intent to work over 30 hours, they're automatically going to be offered that health insurance, because we're budgeting them for more than 30 hours position, so then the health benefits and retirement will automatically be paid. They wouldn't be eligible for our like vacation, sick time, those kinds of things. Our regular variable hour would be the ones that I have to track. Those would be the ones that we're hiring them with the intent of them actually working part-time hours, 3 hours a week to 29 hours a week. And then those are the ones that I have to track and see on top of, because after a year, if they've reached over that 30, then we have to offer them insurance. So that's just adding the new language of that, classifying that employee. Does it change anything to what we currently offer?
Comments, questions? Anybody? Okay. I'm going to entertain a motion to approve as presented. Commissioner Raleigh makes that motion. To have a second. Commissioner Allen seconds the motion. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you. And one more while you're up here. Item number 8. To discuss and consider updating the Kaufman County Health Insurance Policy to add wording for the Affordable Care Act.
This is also something TAC suggested. we kind of had it in our policy, it just wasn't as clear, I guess, as defined. So I just added a couple sentences to our health insurance to indicate with the Affordable Health Care Act and our measurement period and all those kind of things. So it's not changing anything, it's just elaborating a little more clearly on what we're doing with our insurance.
Anybody have any questions?
That's this last page you gave for this package.
Yes, to our health insurance.
What did we change for that?
Just that first paragraph, we just added some word again. It's not changing anything, it's just being more elaborate.
Make a motion.
Okay, we have a motion, Commissioner Rosales, to approve the changes to the county health insurance policy as recommended by the Texas Association of Counties. We have a second. Commissioner Shane seconds that motion. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Those opposed? All right. Item number 9 is Ms. McLean, the auditor. I'm still trying to remember to call you McLeod rather than Cooper. You have to have your name on here. So.
No problem.
Discuss and consider approving use of a jury petty cash box to pay jurors instead of printed checks due to the number of outstanding checks each month.
Good morning, Commissioners. We've kind of discussed this amongst departments for ever since I've been here, because originally the checks were printed by the district clerk and some other departments and to pay the jurors, and it was kind of through our general operating account, bank account, and make our bank statement probably about 230 pages a month because of all the small checks that were written, and it was very hard to reconcile. So we agreed with the county treasurer's office to open a separate bank account. We made another fund to account for it and transferred the money as we budgeted for it. And still an outstanding number of checks. So when our new county treasurer, Mr. Ronnie Ofield, came on board, he asked me, and we talked about it, and I sent it out on my listserv just to see what larger counties were doing. And some of them still are adamant about writing checks. But most of the people that I talked about that I liked their answer of what was suggested was that we write one big check, cash it, county treasurer will be responsible for it, the county auditor's office will audit that money, and we will pay the jurors in cash. We're still working out the mechanics of it, but anybody doesn't want their $10 or their $30 or their $40 for that day will sign a sheet saying they want to donate it to, and it'll only be the ones that were already donated to. Some people do that, and we write those entities a check. The Kaufman County Child Shelter, the Advocacy Center, and I think there's one more, I can't think of it off the top. Make you aware of what we wanted to do. Because just that bank statement, just for jury checks, is very consuming, large number. And doing it by cash and have it in a capital lock box, I think would work. And we just wanted to ask your opinion. I talked to the outside auditors. They have no issue with me wanting to do this. And wanted to know if you had any concerns.
Mr. Oldfield is here with us. Mr. Oldfield, you have any comments? Or no, this has been an effort between the two departments. We appreciate that.
Thank you, Judge. Yes, this is one of the authorities of the treasurer is to set up this process. So we don't seek your approval as much as we seek to inform you, as Karen said. And the history goes back even to Karen's predecessor to develop a process to put this in place. So we will. We've talked to the court clerks. There was a jury called for last Monday, and I was going to use that as an observation jury to start to understand the logistics of jurors coming and going and when an opportune time to pay them would be. Jury got discharged, you know, or they never go, they got deferred. So, we want to do some trial runs. We want to make sure that we have all of our documents created and pull it in. One of the constraints that we've identified, the common constraint in Kaufman County is where. So as soon as we can identify a secure location to encounter the jurors and manage the payment process, we'll be on go. And if you consider that the cost of a Kaufman County writing a check is similar to the cost of a business entity writing a check, these 200 juror checks a month cost us $2,000 a month. So yes, it's going to be some direct time for a treasurer, staff person, an auditor, staff person to do the cash payout when we have a juror. But at least it's a known amount of time that has a definite start and a definite end. So thank you, John.
Okay, the only, and you cleared that up, I think. The only concern I have, I do know that we have some people that donate their time as a juror.
They would sign and check off to the
Does it have
entity
the
they
option?
want to donate to, yes.
Of course, if it's either cold cash, that may not be quite as
Judge, surprisingly, the feedback that I get from county treasurers that made this transition is that their donations went up.
Is it possible that,
Yeah.
is it possible that they could be given like a voucher and they come to the tax assessor's office or your office or someplace and trade that voucher for the $10 so that each voucher would have a juror's name and court date or setting or whatever they were there to hear, and then they could like cash the voucher in for their $10 so that some place other than the courthouse would manage the money, the cash.
We're still working out those mechanics, but they will be going to the treasurer's office. He is responsible for dispersing those funds, and I'm responsible for auditing them. And we've worked real closely, STW's software company, with the software company that runs the jury, and we import a file, and it automatically prints those checks for us. The problem is we have usually over 200, sometimes 300 outstanding checks, because people don't deposit $10 checks. They don't think it means that much. You know,
They think they're saving the county the money.
you know, in unclaimed funds, once a year, twice a year, we have to send that to the state. So, different things.
So what we see as mechanics, commissioners, we want to develop best practices from other counties. And what we're encountering is there's a physical meeting with the jury pool where they're paid in the area where they're serving as a jury. So,
Before they're released.
yes, sir.
But just,
No, again, it is, but there, again, that leads to that lingering, that continual trickling in and trickling out. So we're trying to get it into a confined space, confined time, confined process, so as the auditor can say, so that we accurately and fully fulfill our obligation on that jury on that day. And yes, there are some logistics to work out.
I think it's a great concept.
Thank you.
One county, I thought it was pretty unique, actually installed an ATM for jurors. And the screen gives you the option, get your cash or donate it, and then the screen will pop up and give them that option to donate it to whatever entity, and then you can print out a report, make those checks out to those entities, and clear your account and balance it.
And that's referred to in the local government code, section 113.048, using a cash dispensing machine. So there's all manners of options. We want to get started in a well-controlled environment and then see where it goes. Okay? Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay, you have a motion from Commissioner Allen. Do we have a second? Second. Commissioner Wallach seconds. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, thank you very much. Everybody's working on that. Item number 10 is also from the auditor, Ms. McLeod, to discuss and consider approving budget amendments for Fund 11, Armory IT construction in the amount of $200,000. Fund 13, beginning balance in the amount of $113,975.85. Fund 82, and beginning balance in the amount of $11,836.70 in Fund 135. Established budget in the amount of the established budget was in the amount of $3,607,000, as you will recall.
You received your packet. There was backup for each one while we were making those amounts to establish those beginning balances for those two funds. When we projected the revenues and the expenditures for those two funds, I really had very little feedback, so I went with the spending habits and things projected. So I underestimated their balances, so I wanted to get those corrected. And I wanted to establish the radio bond issue, the contractual obligation that y'all approved a couple of months ago, and we got the money in April. And we sent the backup from First Southwest, and you could see how that money was to be, how it was split up.
Any questions about this? Anything on this item? That's good for you.
I got one. The sheet here we showed the $200,000 increase.
Yes, sir.
Regional call center construction revenues.
IT construction.
Yes, but the department is 360, and then the next one is department 700 with the same regional call center construction.
Yes, sir.
Expenditures and refund. Should those, I don't understand the difference in the numbers of 360 versus.
The 360 is the transfer of the revenue. When I do a line item transfer, I have to increase an expenditure and decrease something else. If it's a revenue, it's actually an increase the way the software runs it.
So those numbers are in relation to your software, not the department.
Right. I established that 700.1 for the IT construction on the Armory. That was the infrastructure for all the dispatch, computers, and lines and stuff. Yes.
Okay.
I figured it'd be easier if I put it there and you could track it all in that one fund, what we actually spent on the Armory for everything.
We'll push the button and see what all the equipment costs.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions of the auditor? Commissioner, do you have anything else?
I have nothing.
Have a motion to accept the recommendation from the auditor concerning the budget amendments as listed. Mr. Allen makes that motion. Do we have a second? Commissioner Shane seconds the motion. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All righty, item number 11 is.
I have one question, Judge. Does it help when we submit the backup where you can see where the numbers come from?
Yes, yes, that's
Okay.
great.
Just making sure.
Yeah, very, very good. And then item number 11 is also from the auditor to present, accept first and second quarter unaudited interim financial statement. I believe this is something new for us. If I remember correctly.
Yes, sir. It is very neat. We thought designing financial statements that looked like county-wide financial statements that was included in the outside audit report would give you something additional to look at and get used to familiar with those terms in that format. And we kind of played catch-up. Once we got the program designed right, we wanted to do the first quarter and then catch you up with the first 6 months of the fiscal year. So I know it's a lot of paperwork, but the summary sheets are probably good to look at, and then if you're interested in something, go back and start digging for the detail. And then you can see what funds go together to make up those numbers.
Very detailed report, I appreciate it.
Oh, you're very
It's enough
welcome.
to keep you busy for
Well, we're still busy cleaning up stuff, so
Right.
trying to, keep it where y'all are informed, the citizens are informed, and we continue to have financial transparency. Sometimes I know it gets, confusing and complex with the requirements that GASB and FASB have on us. Something you didn't ask for, and I didn't include it when you were given your packet, I thought you might like to look at the general fund, the road and bridge funds, your CTERS funds, and your bond issue for the 7 months. You should be sitting, as of April 30th, which is your 7 months, at .583. You'll see you budgeted $34,738,558 for your general fund as revenues. You've brought in $30,412,279. So your revenue budget is at almost at 88% for the 7 months, which a lot of that has to do with your tax dollars, property tax. Expenditures by department, all of them look pretty good. Public Works is over that amount by 8%, but we knew that that was going to happen when we had some retirements and people that left that we had to pay time on the books and different things, but that's not really a bad issue that we can't control and fix those issues. Juvenile probation transfer is always paid at the first of the quarter, so that's why that looks like it's out of whack, but it's really not. Page 2, it's sitting at 75% because we paid the third quarter in April, the last for that time. Then your capital lease principal interest is at 100%. That's because we paid all the capital leases and debt that the general fund owed. That was American National Bank, the payment to government capital for the lighting that is approved at the courthouse. Right, and then transfers are at 65%. It's the same thing because at the first of the month we transfer out to the different funds that need the money that y'all budgeted when budget time to operate. But you budgeted $34,738,558, and we've only spent $19,155,734. You're at 55% of that budget. So that is really good. That's below, like 3% below what the average benchmark should be. Road and bridge, your transfers, revenues that are coming in, and that has to do with property tax, that has to do with auto registration, the money that the district clerk, county clerk, and different funds that are transferred into you are at $5.7 million. So you've gotten 81% of your revenue. Your transfers are at 82%. We've given you a little bit more than what has came in. All right. Then your individual revenue accounts for what you've brought in, sale of equipment, interest earnings on your separate bank accounts. You all look like you're about in the right range for this time of year. Your expenditures, although you have $10,205,614 between the 4 of the precincts, you've only spent $3.19 million, so you're at 31% of expense. So you're way under budget on your expenditures, which probably in the next couple of months it won't look like that. Because we're getting, right, we're going to get, new equipment and those buybacks.
This is just the R&B fund.
Yes, sir.
And so it's not the CTERS or the bond.
No, we're fixing to go to that. Yes, sir. If you'll look at the next page, this is the road bond construction, which is the bond issue. You have a $25 million budget, And, we've only spent $739,000, not even 3% of that budget in the 7-month period.
But we have some large bills coming up on.
Yes, sir.
Like Highway 8.
I think
Transportation.
Commissioner Precinct 4 has one that he's fixing to give us or send in that's not reflected on here. This is going to about bust his budget, take it off, unfinished projects.
Yeah, and I wanted to mention to you, I talked with John Polster the other day, and he wants to come to the court property workshop and give an update on where we are on every project that we've received money for. So we'll try to get that set up sometime here pretty soon too.
All right, let me call something to your attention. Under the revenue side of the bond construction, at $25 million is part of the $29 million that we got last year. So that's not really revenue, that's carryover, okay? We didn't budget any interest simply for the reason we had been told that we weren't going to take it out real quick, or we had projects coming up and we weren't going to earn any. I want you to look at the interest we've earned on that money. $81,000. So that's good. I wanted to call that to your attention. Your C-TERS grants, we budgeted $299,979. We have gotten reimbursed $58,940. These are the projects that you budgeted for, and as of April 30th, we've only spent $66,600. I don't know if you might have some bills that you expect coming in on some of this shortly, or what the holdup is, but I don't know how long that grant was good for.
Weather, my
Yeah, it's 3 years, I think,
Good.
they gave us to spend it
Okay, so
now.
we'll have some carryover in
Yeah, the
there.
good news about that is too, right now there is, I mean, of course it may change, but in the new appropriations bill, who knows what it looked like when the session's over there, they're asking for $475 million. Into the C-TERS grant, so I think last time it was 250 or something like that, so maybe they have, yeah.
Okay.
This is a good up-to-date report for us, and the weather will,
All right, I got something else I want to report to you. I'm gonna have to have y'all amend the general fund budget, because I was consistently sometimes having to run reports to see the revenues that precinct JP's brought in and precinct constables brought in. So I have broken this down, by justices and constables. So I'm probably going to print this one sheet out and scan it and email it to you so you can see. But they have really, JPs have really come up a lot in certain precincts. So that's really helping the general fund. But I'll pass it around and let you look at it. I've circled those for you. That way, isn't it easier reporting if you can say, hey, tell me what the precincts are doing, instead of having to go through and decipher what precincts, so we're recording it separately.
yeah, and I think Jeff Brown will be here probably at our end of the month meeting, and kind of give an overall report for you, elections today as well.
What did we budget in there?
Because that line item has nothing on it, it won't print that out, so I'm gonna have to get that fixed and come and bring the transfer. It'll just be increased that. Usually we budget right at $1 million, a little bit over for JPs, and we never, the constables were all in one big line item. So we'll get those fixed for you, so you can take.
So that's all 4 JPs and all 4 constables combined? We budgeted $1 million?
Yes, 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 sir. I'll probably have that for you after next commissioner's court. Okay. So we get that home there.
So according to that, we're under 50-some% along through the budget year, and we're slightly under our budget.
Just a little bit, not bad. It's before, and I have been always questioned by the outside auditors. I had to write up a narrative of why this revenue, we we budgeted this and we didn't collect it, did I know something substantial that happened, like the 2013 murders? You know, so they kind of, yeah, we got it, exactly.
So that's good, it was pretty much on track.
Yeah.
Do we have anything pending with CTERS payers? We don't have anything. We haven't filed for anything from CTERS, so they've been good about paying us, you know, back as soon as we.
We get it pretty fast. When she files that, we get it back pretty fast.
Again, not quite that,
Yes. Yes. On
Okay. Do we have any other questions about item number 11 concerning the unaudited interim financial statements as well as the other information that Ms. Lee presented us? No, I'll entertain a motion to accept, and that is from Commissioner Shane. Do I have a second? Commissioner Allen seconds. All in favor say aye.
appreciate all the work you did today.
Thank you.
And then item number 12 is line item transfers.
You have any major concerns over these line item transfers? You want to look at mine? Yes, sir.
What is Venus Initiative?
Venus Initiative is an agreement that the county made with AutoZone. And it's for, I think, 20 years. It was done back in 2003. For 4 years, you rebated them their property tax and inventory tax by 100%. This year, we were at 60%. Year 11 through 20 goes down to 50%.
This AutoZone, the
In
warehouse.
Terrell.
Out there. Terrell.
It's on, yeah, but it's also on their store too.
We don't normally, I think our new policy that we adopted in the last year, we were not that aggressive with what we have, unless maybe I be more aggressive. That's pretty aggressive.
Yeah, they,
But it's a big,
I think now they exclude the police of those bridges, the tax abatement, so that we could break those bridges and do stuff. It would have been good if they would have done that then, trying to get the business in.
yeah, I think most of them are agreeable to do that.
Yeah. They understand they have an impact on
Yeah.
the roads.
Right.
So. I got one question on line item transfers, the bottom item of Fund 62. Jail construction INS. You transfer the money from the estimated income. Is that like contingency?
This is like a contingency? Yes, sir. This Venus Initiative is really hard to figure because you know what your property values are because we get that information, but we have no idea how much inventory they have at that time. So sometimes we don't put enough money in there.
So they pay the property tax and then we turn around and.
Oh, yes, I have to get the tax assessor collector and I get a report that they have paid that much.
Okay, other questions about the line item transfer? I'll entertain a motion to approve that request. So have a motion from Commissioner Pollock, do I have a second? Commissioner Shane seconds, any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And then item number 13 is to discuss and consider claim payment.
Our $1,000,000 fixing to come out of that road on precinct 4. And $150,000 is for some equipment for Road and Bridge precinct 4. So that's a little over $1 million, so really the bills are like 800 and some thousand.
What was the insurance? Is it health insurance or property?
Yes, our health insurance is usually around 300 and something, almost to 400, and then our monthly payments, like for the life insurance, the bridge stuff.
I got one question. The big packet here,
Okay?
where we made disbursements to the volunteer fire departments. I didn't see Kaufman, the volunteer fire department.
What page is it?
The very first page, page 1.
First responder, first check.
Commissioner, if that was the reimbursement from the first responder fund, the city of Kaufman and the city of Terrell, because they had separate contracts with East Texas, had separate funds. So those two cities would not have been included in that.
Well, I understand that, but I'm talking about volunteer fire departments. We have a Kaufman volunteer fire department as well. And so does Terrell Volunteer Fire Department got the first check. And Kaufman has a volunteer fire department as well. So they should be.
Well, it was my understanding that the Kaufman Volunteer Fire Department was the city fire department. So,
No, that's not correct. They're part
but
of the
their
ESD.
volunteer department also gets the money from their city contract. Is the way that it was explained to me by East Texas.
I don't understand what you're saying about.
Because-
They get their money from the ESD one.
Well, we're talking about reimbursing them when we had the contract with East Texas. When they were late getting to runs, they were assessed a penalty and it went to the first responder fund, which they held.
And this is the money.
And they turned the money over to us, and we dispersed it out to the departments that were under the county's part of it. The cities of Terrell, Kaufman, and the Kaufman Volunteer Fire Department, which was under the Kaufman's contract, were excluded from what we paid out.
Okay.
I know that doesn't make a lot of sense, but that's the way that it was.
So Terrell Volunteer Fire Department and Kaufman Volunteer Fire Department are set up differently? Is that what you're
Yes.
saying? With
The Terrell Volunteer Fire Department is entirely and totally separate from the city's department. It's not that way in the city of Kaufman.
Does the Terrell Volunteer Fire Department get any city funds?
That I don't know about.
I think the only difference is the Kaufman Volunteer Fire Department is just housed their equipment in the cities.
And their chief is Ed Brown. So they told me that it was one department and that all their stuff was done through the Kaufman contract. Whereas
in Terrell, they have a chief for the city fire.
There's a chief for the city fire department and a separate chief for the volunteer fire department.
Would that constitute them being two different, one entity here and two different entities in Terrell? I don't know, I'm just.
That's the way it has been looked at since I've been here. Is that the city of Kaufman is one entity, up there in Terrell it's two separate entities.
Well, I know that's not exactly the case on funding because they are in ESD one, they get, the Kaufman Volunteer Fire Department gets their funding from ESD
Well,
one.
this is totally separate from the ESD funding.
Well, I understand that, but that constitutes a separate entity, them being funded through the ESD, just like Terrell Volunteer Fire Department is a separate entity from the Terrell Fire Department, because they also get funded through the ESD. So I'm just asking, I saw that they weren't there. Who would we, where's council? Rebecca?
Randy?
Yeah, Randy might have some information on it.
The city of Kaufman Fire Department consists of the fire chief, the assistant fire chief, and 2 staff members. They are also members of the Kaufman Volunteer Fire Department, as well as all the other firefighters. The city owns, I don't know which one, but the city does own a certain portion of the apparatus that sits in the bay. The volunteer fire department owns the majority of the apparatus that sits in that bay. They're kind of co-mingled, so to speak, but they are two separate entities as far as Kaufman Volunteer Fire Department has their status, with the state and with the federal government, as well as the city. The city fire department would be.
They're two separate entities. I think the only difference between them and Terrell is that they house their equipment in the city's facilities.
The city of Terrell Fire Department is a totally separate entity from the city, from the Terrell Volunteer Fire Department. Staffing, equipment, everything are all kept separate.
So the question is why there were no funds distributed to
Kaufman Volunteer Fire.
the Kaufman Volunteer Fire.
They're first responders as well.
Yes, sir, but what I'm trying to say is the Kaufman volunteers, according to what I was told, receive their first responder funds through Kaufman's individual separate contract with East Texas.
In other words, they were paid directly by East Texas.
Yes,
And didn't go through the county.
and go through the county.
Can you check on that?
I will certainly do
Yeah, I
that.
think that'd be neat.
Yeah.
Thing to find out. Now, what about the care flight? How's that work?
The contract with them, there will be no first responder fund. Any penalties will go to the county general fund.
I think the only difference is that, the chiefs are the same for volunteer as it is on the Kaufman department. And that's a house and equipment volunteer department, equipment in the city of Kaufman's facility. They are separately funded. So
I didn't know this week, Saturday, they had an election in the past.
raising the tax rate.
Now, it's just.
There was the lowest tax, they got 3 cents.
And then I also noticed where the issue over Warsaw and Scurry, the fire department, they had some area over there where. Okay, already for years. Yeah, and it passed. So it is now a part, yeah, I saw that on the website. I'm almost sure, but it's on the, check when we get to.
Thank you.
Hope I didn't interfere, I just knew what that was about.
Education.
Yeah.
We just like to learn. I know we ask a lot of questions.
Okay, other questions about the claim for payment? Anybody?
Yes, page 32 here.
I'm okay with
For the computer repairs. Last 3 items was large, or really large amounts. Did that go to the call center, the new call center, or did we have some?
No, that's Fund 10, that's not Fund 11.
What is it? Jack, you know? I'm not sure. 7,000, 8,000, 2,000. That's some pretty big purchases. Jack, we know the computers all been dispersed.
You want to see these? He's at school.
They just may be restocking.
Well, I know when he came to budget time, he had a lot of computers that he needed to buy to replace them, they were old and outdated, and because Microsoft changing, they started that new office product. Page 18. Okay, that's still. No, that is that, tree calm, but she made out to her. It was for power supply, controller devices, and software.
Is that coming out of there?
I think he said we were on that because the IT budget discussed.
That says for a license.
It's in the budget, I heard on it.
Software license.
Another one, like your, addition, APAC, what's the,
For a bond, we do bond.
Steve, did you send that over? To divide that out? How did you send it? Okay. If he has the email to attach to it, yes. If not, no, because I'm going to sign it off on stuff and approve it, just for cover us. Okay? That's the bill schedule.
Jack's checking on what you were asking about, maybe you back in here. Have any other questions or comments about the bills? I'll entertain a motion to accept as presented, be paid. Commissioner Allen makes that motion. Do we have a second? Second. Mr. Wallace seconds the motion. Do we have any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item number 18 is the motion to adjourn the regular meeting. Commissioner Shane makes that motion. Do we have a second? Second. Mr. Allen seconds the motion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay. In the morning, we start at 9 in the morning. Workshop here. And then we'll have the PCLC.
I will be here in the morning. Okay, so just let me know. I will, I'll email it to you.
I sent out 5 emergency notifications, 2 countywide and 3 area specific.